Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Malcriada Thoughts. Today is a very, very, very special episode because this is the first episode of a new series I'm making called RGV Role Models. I'm making a series to highlight the amazing people who are working on the ground to help better the valley, to heal the valley, and to just protect the valley. Especially during these times, I think it's very, very important to highlight, honor, and celebrate these people. So that's what you can expect for the next few episodes, just me highlighting people who I think deserve to have their story told and celebrated. All right, without further ado, Sage Healing interview. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Malcriada Thoughts. I'm here with a very, very, very special guest, Miss Stephanie Champion.
Thank you.
And today we're going to be focusing on mental health resources in the Valley. This specific establishment is fairly new because mental health resources in the 956 and the RGV, we haven't been so much up to date because, well, we'll get into it. But I'm very, very excited to be here interviewing Miss Stephanie Champion, the Director of Public Relations and Business Development here in their Edinburgh office in Sage Counseling.
Thank you.
So, Miss Champion,
Yes.
can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from, and what do you do here at Sage Counseling?
So I am here from the Valley. What I typically do here at Sage is that I am a therapist, but I also do handle, as you mentioned, Director of Relations and Business Development, and I'm responsible for the office here in Edinburgh. So my responsibilities is to make sure that all of our clients, if there's any type of maybe misunderstandings or that there's any type of, maybe feedback that we may need to improve, I handle those and I delegate those as needed just to make sure that we're providing a quality of care.
Oh, wow, that's really awesome. Okay, so you are a multifaceted, like in your career, it's multifaceted. You're not just dealing with the business side and the administration side. You yourself are a therapist and you
Yes,
have clients.
I do.
Yes?
Yes.
How is it like managing those two things?
Luckily, because we are in a private practice sector, I'm able to manage my schedule accordingly. So I do make my time for, my clients and even like for things like this. I do organize those things into my schedule. So it's not so hectic as one would think holding all of these positions, but the flexibility that I have with this role, it allows me to be able to be in multiple things at once.
Okay,
Yeah.
I love that for you.
Yes.
All right. So, how many locations does Sage Healing have?
We do have 3 locations. So we have one in, well, of course, here Edinburgh, one in Far, and one in McAllen.
Okay, so you guys are like a little bit of everywhere in the valley.
Yes, I mean, and even then, it's not that far because our each of our offices are maybe like at most 7 minutes apart. So
Yeah.
it's pretty close, but we are able to have a lot of the clients that maybe live maybe Wessico. I've even had some that come drive from Brownsville all the way to
Oh,
Edinburgh
wow.
because this service that we provide is so limited. So we do have from all over the valley.
And for those who aren't Valley natives, Brownsville is about an hour and 30, maybe 2 hours if there's hella traffic from Edinburgh in the McAllen area. So for them to be making that big of a commute for this specific, they're in search of this mental health resource, says a lot.
Yes.
Says a lot about the dedication of like a lot of first gen kiddos dedicating to mental health and healing.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh. Okay. So, what led to the creation of Sage Healing, to these counseling services here in the Valley?
Sage was created by our CEO, Jasmine Elizondo. She wanted to create a safe space for therapists to come and really come into their own and provide a service that is based on the different approaches that we provide to help each client get better. Just because when we worked for certain agencies, mass agencies, a lot of the modalities that are used there are very restricted. So here we're able to kind of pull from a more holistic approach when it comes to serving our clients to help them better heal. Because healing is not just linear, it's very different for everybody. So Sage essentially provides that safe space for us to really come into our own and really have that personal connection with our clients to help them heal and grow.
I love that, not just focusing on providing a more holistic approach to the clients, but also for the therapist providing these
Yeah.
services, because it's labor.
Yeah.
People might be sitting, therapists, you could say therapists, oh yeah, they're sitting in an office and it's very calm, very whatever, but it's very emotionally draining. Would you
Hmm.
agree?
It can be at times, depending, but because, and I was watching this TikTok the other day because there's a lot of therapists that have made their platforms online.
Mm-hmm.
So for therapists that work solely online, it's like, okay, one of them was like 9 a.m., a father just lost their daughter. 10 a.m., this mother is recently losing her job. We hear so many things from our start time to our end time. So in between those time frames, yeah, it could be really taxing mentally. But at the same time, this is why we have the structure that we have with Sage to be able to give ourselves one to process with our clients and to help them understand what they're going through, to be able to validate them in the sense that, you know what, hey, I'm going through something and that's okay. Because most of the time we think the things that we go through, it's just like, okay, we went through it, like, okay, it is what it is. But it's like, no, let's talk about those things.
Ya
Let's
pasó,
feel,
ya pasó.
yeah, exactly. So it's not always like that. And so having the structure that we have with Sage and having the flexibility, we're able to kind of more or less gauge, okay, maybe this client needs a little bit more attention here. So maybe I'll give myself a little bit of a break. Or, we're able to kind of maybe look at different approaches. Like, hey, we talked about this last time, but you know what? Let me just prepare a little bit more and see what other things I can pull out from like my theories or like other techniques to be able to help them, because sometimes even now we've noticed the more the world changes, there's more things that are not learned yet. And I'll say that more so in the sense of like when it comes to sexuality, we've been getting a lot of those. So a lot of that is not covered in our, education.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of going and reading up on that and making sure that we're providing that appropriate service for those clients, we have to also take the time to, you know, touch base more or less and see how we're going to navigate those things.
Thank you so much for that answer.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned a little bit earlier that sometimes when a therapist has too many clients,
Mm-hmm.
or there's a client that has an issue that was very 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 like intense, and
Yeah.
you kind of have to take a break from that, it could be a little challenging if a therapist has like maybe an appointment right back to back, like
Yeah.
that many therapists and other offices do carry that kind of dynamic with their employees. How would you say, or what is the minimum to maximum amount of clients someone should be dealing with, in your opinion?
Ooh, we are all very different. So, like for myself, my capacity in a day is 5.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that is a very good number where I've heard different stories throughout the day. And it's like, okay, I've listened, I've helped, and now it's just kind of let's decompress everything that we've carried. But because think of it like this, every time that we listen to someone's pain and, struggles, it's like a kind of like a shoulder, like you're tense, that tenseness built up over time. So for me, that's my max. But we do have therapists that, some of them maybe 7 in a day or 9 in a day. It just really depends how you want to more or less navigate your schedule for yourself. But we all know our levels of tolerance. So what may work for me may not work for somebody else. We
Mm-hmm.
do also have therapists that maybe do at least 4 or maybe do 3. But because as therapists, we're also human. So we get sick like everybody else. We don't feel good. Maybe we ate something bad the night before and we're just like sitting there and we're like, oh my gosh, I feel really sick. But, we're human too. So sometimes we have to take those things into consideration as well whenever we're scheduling our clients and seeing, okay, this would be a good day. You know what? This is a good time frame. And we just manage those how we see fit.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, because I always wondered because sometimes when I would be looking for a therapist, some therapists would have only some slots available
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. And then some other therapists had like 30 minutes back to back to back to back
Yeah.
to be able to, I guess, again, like, it's a job,
Yeah.
right? It's a job. So with the clientele, like, it could be a little hard juggling the fact that, hey, I want to help people, but it's not in my capacity, but I need to make money.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm very much, I'm going to help to the best of my ability, but not at sacrificing myself.
Mm.
Just because if I'm not okay, I can't be okay for my clients. So I'm very much really big on self care and having those spaces and boundaries in between. But because, yeah, I need to be 100% to show up for, the person who might be going through a breakup or a divorce or, might just recently experience a child loss, all of those things. I need to be present for those moments. So, in order for me to do that, I do need to make sure that I'm taking care of myself.
I love that. And I hope that every mental health specialist and every person who is involved in any type of healing journey or practice, that they also remember that, right?
Yes.
All right. Next question I have here for you. What is your favorite part of this job?
My clients.
Yeah.
Yes, they're so amazing. But just sitting there from the first day that I met them and just listening to their stories just kind of evolve and change and just watching them essentially bloom into like this beautiful flower. Like I think that's my favorite part of my job.
Oh, I love that so
Yes.
much. I love that so much. On the flip side, what would you consider the most challenging part of this job?
um, that there's not enough time in the day. Because, yes, we are in a helping profession, so we would love to help everybody. So, it also puts us to be really mindful and cognizant of how we're feeling because, again, like I had mentioned before, if we're not okay, we can't always, be present. So, I'm really big as far as taking the time, having that break in between if I do need it, but also in having that open communication with my clients like, hey, you know what? I don't feel so good today. I'm going to have to cancel, reschedule. Great, but because sometimes being in the therapist chair, a lot of the times they forget that we're human.
Mm.
So it can be a real thing, but because we don't want to let anybody down, but also this is kind of where it's a good education moment for us with our clients to let them know like, hey, I know we don't talk about much about ourselves, but I'm not feeling good type of thing, and so be it. And they're understanding, they're very good about understanding, but it can get very confused because yeah, they do see us as, you know what, that's the person I talk to, that's the person I share my things with. And so it creates a relationship where sometimes it could be a little bit dependent, but it's not that we're completely not going to show up. It's just, hey, I'm not feeling really good right now, but I'll go ahead and see you tomorrow or the day after or whatnot.
Right, right.
Yes.
So, would you say that in this world that is very transactional,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes therapists get treated just as a commodity
Yeah.
and not as people as a whole?
Yes, it really can happen. And I think that also happens to be because a lot of the times, even when it comes to mental health services, if they've never come to private practice in other agencies, I mean, you have somebody there. If your therapist that you were seeing before is not available, okay, no worries. We have somebody else.
Mm.
So it's just like whomever is there. But it's very different when we're here, but because you only see us, just one person.
Mm-hmm.
We don't toss you around. We don't do any
Yeah.
of that here.
Yeah, because that could be a very confusing and hard because a therapist relationship is one that you build like any
Mm-hmm.
other relationship. Would you agree?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god. No, I just started thinking of like a scenario right now, like popped into
Mm-hmm.
my head, like a little kid who is going through bullying or something. Imagine if he's going through bullying and then they are very silent as a
Mm-hmm.
result. They have been acting different. Then they go to a therapist, and then they try to build, a connection, and then boom, something happens. Their parents can't bring them at a certain time the last time because they only got off for work of whatever
Yeah.
time. Okay, it's fine. We'll toss you over to this other person who they have to reshare everything once again.
Yeah.
Like that must be so incredibly like frustrating for people, and maybe that's why sometimes they're turned away
Yeah.
from therapy because it's like no, it's the same thing over and over, and I can't even. I, it's, it's not doing anything for me. Yeah, because we haven't had the time to build that relationship with someone, and open yourself up like that,
Right.
and that's hard to find.
It really is. Luckily, our admin team does a really great job on placing, our clients with those of us that have certain availabilities. We all have, specialties in terms of like age, specific diagnosis, treatment modalities. So our admin team is just really fantastic in organizing our clients. So it really doesn't happen as much. Um, Being here unless for whatever reason maybe the client wanted somebody else different, or maybe something wasn't disclosed, and then we
Mm.
do make accommodations based on those changes and preferences.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yes.
that's really awesome. Shout out admin team.
Yes.
Okay, so what would your number one advice be to the youth of the valley?
um, Mainly it's okay to make mistakes. You're supposed to make mistakes during your adolescent period, and yes, mistakes are going to happen, but it's also okay to talk about these things because more than likely all of us have gone through those mistakes in our adolescence, if not something similar. So it wouldn't be anything that's unheard of. Now, if maybe the dynamics at home are not ideal, that's why we are here. We have a no judgment zone, and we're here to help you navigate through those things, but also in just having some self compassion and allowing yourself to understand that, okay, you made a mistake, you know what? We learn from it, and that's how we shape our character a little better. We learn not to do it again, but we also try to navigate through life a little differently as well.
I love that answer, and I love that you said have a little more self compassion because in our culture, sometimes that's not modeled
Yeah.
very much, or it's not, I guess I would say, said
Yeah.
or verbalized. There we go. It's not really verbalized, but it's shown through action.
Mm-hmm.
But we're humans, we communicate through language, and that's something we need, right?
Yeah.
So I love that you said that because I think in our culture, a lot of the times where it's motivation, a lot of it is rooted in comedy. And sadly, comedy and like jokes and can be
Yes.
like self deprecating.
It really can.
And not just self deprecating, but deprecating in general towards other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, nada más estás bien huevón. No, es que no haces nada. Es que da, 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 da. Ponte las pilas. Like, estás haciendo nada más el berrinche. But, and it's funny, and you could say it like as a joke to motivate you or something like that. Or you could tell other people that as a joke as well. But I feel like it's just there. It just
Yeah.
gets to that and it doesn't go any deeper. That's what came to mind when you said have self-compassion because I think we're not taught to do that at all.
No, absolutely not. Our culture is very much okay. It is what it is, and let's move on.
Mhm.
And sometimes it really isn't. But also in understanding how different it is now for teens as opposed to how it was maybe back in, like, we're looking like early 2000s, maybe 2019. Even then, there wasn't so much exposure to online and social media, all of those presences. So we not only have the feedback that we're getting back from mom and dad and our family, but now we have, hey, social media is telling me that I should do this, or this is how I should live, this is how I should look, this is essentially how I should be, and that's not correct. But because we are all so different, and we should live and do and make the decisions that are best for us because we are not like everybody else.
Not based on anyone else but your own
Yes,
experience.
absolutely.
I love that. So, we answered what the advice would be to the youth of the valley.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say your biggest piece of advice is to the adults and the parents of said youth in the valley?
Kids do not come with a manual, and therefore, yes, it's tough. Yes, there's a lot of changes that are happening. Things are a lot scarier now because of the advances in technology and the accessibility to some things that weren't accessible before. But the most important thing is that we don't have a manual as parents, but we can try and learn with them, essentially because things are different now. It's important to really take the time. And it's so hard to also do that as a parent, but because our lives are so busy, like go, go, go. And now, even then, it requires multiple incomes to maintain a family. Work days are longer. There's not so much communication within the dynamics of the family, which can also cause, some type of damage to the child. But I always tell it like this to my busy parents: even if it's simply just 20 minutes a day with your child, how are you? How's it going? You don't even really have to say much. You can even just sit in silence. That is enough time that allows your child to feel as if they are safe, that they are loved, and that they are heard. Just 20 minutes. So if we don't have hours to give, at least let's do that. But because being a parent sometimes comes with mom guilt, dad guilt, all of those things, and those are very real things, and it can also allow as a parent to make you feel, okay, I'm not doing enough. But just 20 minutes can make a very big difference.
I love the fact that we're validating our parents in that statement. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie to you. It's hard and you feel frustrated, and that's real because
Yeah.
it's a hard task being a parent, like bringing life and then trying to teach that little person to be a decent one, not
Yeah.
one of the bad ones.
Yes.
Like, it's hard and it's such a big commitment. And I think to a certain extent, like, parents were also lied to in a sense. Like, society kind of lied to parents, saying all you need to do is have a kid, go to work and provide for it. That's all you need, and that boom, you're set. Like, that's all you need to do.
Yeah.
When that was the lie about what family is and how to be one. And I love that we're validating parents because, yeah, like sometimes I feel like, yes, like kids have the right to be upset, kids have the right to, stand up for themselves and say like, hey, how you treated me was not okay in my childhood. But I also love the fact that we are recognizing our parents' wounds because that's how we heal generational trauma.
Yeah.
And that's how we all come together in such a better way.
Yes. I couldn't agree more.
Yes! Okay. So, if anyone is interested in beginning their healing journey but are hesitant, what should they do?
Ask yourself, if not now, then when?
Mm.
Because yes, we can want change, but in order for us to engage in change, things need to actually change. So even if it is difficult to come in through the door and talk about some of these things, at least you took the first step. So if we keep wanting to do things but never do them, is it really that we want better, or are we choosing to stay in the same spot? That would be what I would say, because it's really scary. It's a vulnerable position that one puts themselves in, the position to talk about these things. But at the same time, we provide that safety and that environment to allow them to be able to talk about the things that nobody else maybe has heard, or maybe the things that they've had in their mind but they've never wanted to say. And I'm very much of like, okay, because sometimes I've heard it before many times from some of my clients, it's because I've tried X, Y, and Z therapists and they just didn't listen, or they weren't the ones for me. Okay. That's kind of like my little self-disclosure in the beginning. Like, if you feel that the vibe's off between you and I, it's no hard feelings.
Yeah.
Like, let me help you get to where you need to be. But because it's not, I want to keep you as my client. No, it's, I want to see you do better.
Yes.
So sometimes it does take a few tries for somebody to come and be like, okay, well, yeah, you know what, this is more my vibe, or you know what, no, maybe somebody else is a little better. But I always have that kind of as a disclosure notice in my first session, but because it's so important you find the person that you're most comfortable with to allow yourself to be vulnerable. And it's okay to put, conditions as far as what you're looking for in terms of a therapist.
I love that. All right. So, where can my listeners find these services?
Yes, so we are on sagehealing.com. We also have an Instagram platform, and just a simple Google. You just type in Sage Healing Counseling. All of our locations will pop up. if you are looking for anyone in particular, all of our therapist profiles are listed online, so you can kind of check and see our specialties, the age ranges that we see. And then all you have to simply do is just call one of our locations, whichever one's closest to you, McAllen, Edinburgh, or Far. If you don't want to talk to us, we also can make appointments via text. And we just, yeah, so we have that opportunity available just because it is sometimes a little scary for someone to be on the phone and talk to somebody. So all of those options are easily accessible, and all you really have to do is just call.
You heard it here first. So now we got where we can reach Sage Healing out of the way, is there any outside resources that you would recommend? Any other content creators, books, podcasts, movies even?
I'm really big on, in terms of like podcasts, audiobooks, a lot of self help books are really helpful as well. Luckily, a lot of things when it comes to maybe like trauma, depression, anxiety, all of those things can be found online. Now, mind you, these are all techniques and tools that we can use to help us alleviate some of the symptoms of what we're feeling physically. But mentally, sometimes if we're not able to navigate those things and really maybe even write through like a journal, there's a lot of journals out there that have like your prompts, and you can kind of follow up with that and receive kind of like that internal dialogue within yourself. There is healing through there, but sometimes you may need to find a person to speak with. Now, we do accept all insurances here, so therapy is also a good option. If not, even those that are involved in like their churches and they have counseling services available. There's a lot of organizations that are nonprofit that do offer free counseling services. So just depending on what it is that you're looking for. I'm a really big advocate for findhelp.org. So in there, you basically type in your zip code of where you live, and it will bring out all the resources within the community. So you can have from whether you need transportation, shelter, legal assistance, you know, even medical care, expenses for school, things like that. All of those things are located on there, as well as little to no cost providers that provide therapy services as well.
That's awesome.
Yes.
And I'll link everything in the show notes, so don't worry, guys. All right. I think that concludes our Sage Healing interview. Thank you so much for being a guest, and thank you so much for letting me share your story with my listeners and the rest of, the entire valley and possibly the whole world.
Yes.
But I wanted to end off on this. As you were talking to me about your clients and getting to know them, when you said my favorite part of this is my clients and seeing them grow and all that stuff, I was like, oh my goodness, therapists are story keepers.
Yeah, I like to say we're professional secret keepers.
Oh my goodness. I love that because I consider podcasting storytelling.
Yeah.
And it's a way to honor like our ancestors, because that's the way we communicated, that's the way we spread information, that's the way we created cultures.
Yeah.
And so to be on the other receiving side, it's like, oh, therapists keep stories that will never be shared, but they know them. So technically they have been shared within the world, but they're in a safe space.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I just thank you so much for all you do. I admire you a lot, and I admire everything you've created along with the whole Sage Healing team. And just thank you so much for healing the valley. Just a little bit, step by step.
A little at a time. Yes, for sure. Thank you. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to do this. I think it's really helpful, especially for listeners that are out there, that are kind of wondering, what can I do?
Yeah.
So it's really helpful. So I appreciate you allowing us to be a part of this.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, that's all I had for you for this episode. This was your host, Zadria Knives, and
Stephanie Champion,
signing off.